Chapter 13 The Mysterious Informant. As dusk settled over the port city, a cloak of darkness began to drape the bustling streets, transforming them into a labyrinth of shadow and intrigue. The air was thick with the salt of the sea and the faint hum of distant activity. Mara and Cale stood at the edge of the fog-shrouded waterfront, their gazes fixed on the abandoned warehouse that loomed ominously ahead. The warehouse, a crumbling relic of the city's industrial past, had emerged as a critical piece of their investigation into the assassination plot threatening both their realms. The day had been a grueling marathon of undercover operations and tense negotiations, each moment stretching their patience and resolve. Yet, the promise of new information had rekindled a flicker of hope and determination in their hearts. They were eager to unravel the layers of deception surrounding the conspiracy, their senses heightened and their minds focused. As they prepared to make their way toward the warehouse, the evening's chill served as a reminder of the stakes involved. Just as they were about to set their course, a shadowy figure materialized from the edge of the thickening fog. The figure's sudden appearance was both unexpected and unsettling, their presence exuding an air of mystery and secrecy. Clad in a dark cloak that concealed their identity, the informant moved with a practiced ease that suggested familiarity with the city's hidden corners. Their emergence was like a ghost from the mist, adding a layer of intrigue to an already complex mission. Mara and Cale exchanged cautious glances, their instincts alert to the potential significance of this new development. The informant's unexpected arrival interrupted their planned approach to the warehouse, introducing an element of uncertainty into their carefully laid plans. The figure's presence in the fog-laden twilight underscored the murky nature of their investigation, where allies and adversaries often blurred into one. The informant spoke with a voice that was both measured and enigmatic, hinting at crucial information but shrouding their own intentions in ambiguity. They carried an air of authority tempered by an aura of caution, as though they were accustomed to navigating the delicate balance between revelation and concealment. The promise of valuable intelligence was tantalizing, yet the informant's elusiveness added a layer of complexity to their already intricate pursuit. With the warehouse still in view and the weight of their mission pressing heavily upon them, Mara and Cale prepared to engage with the mysterious figure. The night's encroaching darkness mirrored their uncertain path, as they faced the challenge of discerning truth from deception. The informant's sudden appearance promised new insights, but it also heightened the tension, leaving Mara and Cale to navigate the shadows of both the city and the conspiracy. The evening had deepened, and the port city was cloaked in an eerie fog that seemed to swallow sound and light alike. Mara and Cale, their nerves on edge from the day's events, were poised to investigate the abandoned warehouse that held the promise of crucial information. The old structure loomed ahead, a monument to decay that stood as a grim testament to the dangers they faced. As they prepared to advance, the sudden appearance of a figure from the swirling mist caught their attention. The informant emerged with a quiet but commanding presence, cutting through the fog with an air of deliberate purpose. Cloaked in darkness, the figure's attire was a heavy, dark cloak that billowed slightly with each step, obscuring their form and concealing their identity. The wide-brimmed hat cast a shadow over their face, enhancing the sense of mystery that surrounded them. The fog seemed to cling to the informant, accentuating their spectral appearance. Their movement was fluid and practiced, every step measured and deliberate. It was clear that the informant was accustomed to navigating the shadows, their presence a blend of grace and stealth that suggested extensive experience in covert operations. This ease in the dark added an unsettling edge to their appearance, making Mara and Cale wary of the figure's true intentions. The informant's sudden arrival was both a blessing and a potential threat, adding complexity to their already tense situation. Mara and Cale exchanged a look that conveyed both curiosity and caution. The stakes of their mission were high, and the appearance of this enigmatic figure introduced a new variable into their carefully laid plans. Their instincts were sharply tuned to the potential for both valuable intelligence and possible deception. The informant's presence was a reminder of the fine line they walked between uncovering the truth and falling into a trap. The informant's voice, when it came, was low and measured, carrying a tone of authority that commanded attention. The words were carefully chosen, hinting at important information but withholding full clarity. The message was clear. The informant possessed knowledge that could advance their investigation, yet their manner and the shrouded nature of their identity made it difficult to gauge their reliability. The figure's cautious approach only deepened the mystery. As the informant spoke, the fog around them seemed to grow denser, creating a sense of isolation from the rest of the world. The dim light of the port city's lamps barely penetrated the mist, casting ghostly reflections that danced around the figure. Mara and Kale remained alert, their senses sharpened by the atmosphere of suspense. Each piece of information the informant offered was weighed against the possibility of deception. The conversation unfolded with a tension that mirrored the foggy night, where every word was scrutinized for its truthfulness. The informant's deliberate pacing and strategic revelations suggested they had their own agenda, making it crucial for Mara and Kale to navigate the interaction carefully. They were acutely aware that the answers they sought were wrapped in layers of ambiguity and potential danger. With the informant's hints leading them toward deeper layers of the conspiracy, Mara and Kale prepared to make their next move. The figure's sudden appearance had provided both an opportunity and a challenge, forcing them to reassess their approach. The night's murkiness served as a fitting backdrop to the elusive and dangerous nature of their investigation, casting long shadows over their path forward. As the informant faded back into the mist, leaving them with fragmented clues and a heightened sense of urgency, Mara and Kale were left to contemplate their next steps. The warehouse still awaited their attention, its secrets now intertwined with the enigmatic insights offered by their shadowy contact. With the informant's departure, the fog of uncertainty surrounding their mission thickened, and the race to unravel the conspiracy grew ever more critical. The informant's voice cut through the fog with a low, measured tone, each word delivered with deliberate clarity. "I have information that could change the course of your investigation," they said, their voice carrying an unmistakable air of urgency. The figure remained cloaked in darkness, their face hidden beneath the wide-brimmed hat, adding to the enigma of their presence. The soft rustle of their cloak was the only other sound in the otherwise quiet night, underscoring the tension of the moment. Despite the promise of valuable intelligence, the informant's tone was neutral, offering no hint of their true intentions or emotions. "But before I can share it, you must prove your commitment to this cause," they continued, the words hanging heavy in the mist. The insistence on proving their commitment introduced an additional layer of complexity, one that Mara and Kale would need to navigate carefully. The informant's cryptic manner made it clear that gaining their trust would not come easily. Mara's eyes narrowed, her frustration momentarily surfacing. "We don't have time for games," she snapped, her voice tinged with impatience. "If you have information that can help us, you need to share it now. Every moment we delay risks our mission." The urgency in her voice was palpable, reflecting the mounting pressure of their investigation. Her typical decisiveness clashed with the informant's cautious approach, adding a new level of tension to their already strained situation. The informant's stance remained firm, their voice unwavering as they responded. "Trust must be earned, even in the face of such grave danger," they said, their words revealing nothing of their own motivations or the nature of the information they held. The figure's composed demeanor in the face of Mara's frustration suggested a deep understanding of their own position and the stakes involved. The challenge of proving their commitment only served to heighten the sense of mystery surrounding their contact. Kale, observing the exchange with a mixture of concern and determination, stepped forward. "What do you need us to do?" he asked, his voice calm and measured. His approach was more strategic, aiming to address the informant's demands while keeping the conversation focused on their mutual goal. The contrast between Mara's impatience and Cale's measured response highlighted their differing strategies but underscored their shared objective. As the informant considered Cale's question, the mist thickened around them, amplifying the sense of isolation and secrecy. The figure's response came slowly, each word chosen with care. "There is a test of loyalty that you must undertake," they said. "Only then will you earn the information you seek." The conditions placed upon them added another layer of complexity to their already precarious situation. Mara and Cale exchanged glances, their resolve hardening as they prepared to face whatever challenge lay ahead. The conversation concluded with the informant's figure receding into the fog, leaving Mara and Cale to ponder their next steps. The promise of crucial information, now coupled with the need to prove their commitment, set the stage for the next phase of their investigation. As they turned their attention back to the abandoned warehouse, the weight of the informant's cryptic challenge loomed over them, underscoring the urgent need to unravel the conspiracy and secure their mission's success. Mara's eyes narrowed as she stared into the shifting fog, her patience wearing thin under the weight of their urgent mission. Her frustration was palpable, each word she spoke carrying the sharp edge of her mounting impatience. "We don't have time for games," she said, her voice cutting through the chill of the night. The intensity in her gaze and the forcefulness in her tone contrasted sharply with the informant's calm and cryptic presence. "If you have information, we need it now," Mara continued, her frustration rising. Her voice was urgent, the gravity of their situation weighing heavily on her words. "Lives are at stake." The contrast between Mara's direct, no-nonsense approach and the informant's enigmatic demeanor was stark, amplifying the tension between their immediate need for answers and the informant's measured reluctance to provide them. The informant's silhouette remained unmoved, their face obscured beneath the brim of their hat, their presence almost otherworldly in the foggy haze. They maintained a deliberate silence for a moment, letting Mara's words sink in. When they finally spoke, their tone was calm and composed, a deliberate counterpoint to Mara's frustration. "Trust must be earned," they said, their voice low but unwavering. "Even in the face of such grave danger." Cale stepped forward, his demeanor more measured than Mara's, aiming to bridge the growing rift between their impatience and the informant's cryptic requirements. "What do you need us to do?" he asked, his voice steady and calm. His approach was calculated, seeking to address the informant's demands while keeping the conversation focused on their shared goal. The contrast between Mara's directness and Cale's strategic inquiry underscored their different tactics in dealing with the situation. The informant considered Cale's question with a deliberate pause, the fog swirling around them, adding to the atmosphere of secrecy and suspense. "There is a test of loyalty that you must undertake," they finally said. "Only then will you earn the information you seek." Their words were measured, adding another layer of complexity to the challenge Mara and Cale faced. The informant's reluctance to divulge information until their loyalty was proven only heightened the stakes of their mission. Mara's frustration flared again, her hands clenching into fists at her sides. "What kind of test?" she demanded, her voice straining against the calm facade she struggled to maintain. Her desire for immediate answers clashed with the informant's inscrutable terms, creating a palpable tension in the dim light of the lanterns. The uncertainty of the test added another obstacle to their already precarious situation. As the informant's figure receded into the fog, leaving Mara and Cale to contemplate their next move, the weight of their challenge settled heavily on their shoulders. The promise of crucial information, now tangled with the requirement of proving their commitment, set the stage for a new phase in their investigation. As they prepared to face whatever the test entailed, the urgency of their mission and the stakes of the conspiracy loomed larger than ever. As the evening deepened, Mara and Kale faced the enigmatic informant with a mixture of frustration and resolve. The informant, draped in a dark cloak and hood, emerged from the fog, their presence both intriguing and unsettling. The fog swirled around them, adding an extra layer of mystery to their already elusive nature. The informant's voice, low and measured, cut through the murkiness of the night, carrying an air of urgency that suggested the gravity of their revelations. "I have information that could change the course of your investigation," the informant said, their tone carefully neutral. The words hung in the air, laden with promise yet offering little in the way of immediate answers. "But before I can share it, you must prove your commitment to this cause. Trust must be earned, even in the face of such grave danger." The figure's manner was deliberately cryptic, hinting at deeper layers of the conspiracy while concealing their own motives. Mara's patience, already frayed from a long day of investigation, snapped. Her eyes narrowed, reflecting her growing frustration. "We don't have time for games," she snapped, her voice edged with urgency. "If you have information, we need it now. Lives are at stake." Her direct, no-nonsense approach clashed with the informant's enigmatic demeanor, underscoring the tension between their immediate need for answers and the informant's reluctance to provide them. Kale, observing the interaction with a calm yet firm demeanor, sensed the need for a more diplomatic approach. He stepped forward, his gaze steady and composed. "What do you need from us to share the information?" he asked, his voice calm and measured. "We understand the need for caution, but we are prepared to offer whatever is necessary to gain your trust." His attempt to bridge the gap between their demands and the informant's conditions demonstrated both his commitment to the mission and his diplomatic skills. The informant's gaze, hidden beneath the brim of their hat, seemed to weigh Kale's words carefully. There was a brief pause before they spoke again, their voice a soft whisper in the encroaching darkness. "Trust is not given lightly," they said. "It must be earned through actions, not just words. Prove that you are dedicated to this cause beyond mere words, and I will consider sharing what I know." The informant's cryptic reply only added to the complexity of their already challenging situation. Mara, though still visibly tense, recognized the necessity of compromise. She exchanged a glance with Kale, understanding that their next move would need to balance their urgency with the informant's demands. The night seemed to close in around them, the fog thickening as if to conceal the secrets they sought. The situation was fraught with danger, but both Mara and Kale were determined to find a way to navigate it. The informant's presence seemed to merge with the encroaching darkness, their hidden eyes scanning the surrounding fog for any signs of eavesdroppers or lurking threats. Their cloaks swirled around them like a shroud, adding to the air of mystery that clung to their every movement. After a moment's contemplation, they reached into the depths of their cloak and produced a small, intricately carved box. The box's ornate patterns caught what little light there was, hinting at the secrets it held within. "This contains details about the conspirators and their plans," the informant said, their voice carrying a gravity that made the words resonate with a chilling significance. They handed the box to Kale, who accepted it with a steady hand. The weight of the box seemed to reflect the burden of the information it held. The informant's warning lingered in the cool air, a final admonition that underscored the gravity of their exchange. "But be warned," the informant continued, their tone low and urgent. "The path ahead is fraught with danger. Trust no one, and remember that not everything is as it seems." Their warning was a stark reminder of the perilous nature of their investigation, a final note of caution before they melted back into the fog. The informant's figure seemed to dissolve into the mist, leaving Mara and Kale with a heavy sense of foreboding. Kale's fingers tightened around the box, the intricacy of its design a stark contrast to the darkness that surrounded them. He glanced at Mara, his expression reflecting both the weight of the responsibility and the danger they faced. "We need to examine this carefully," he said, his voice steady despite the tension of the moment. This information could be crucial, but we must remain vigilant. Mara nodded, her gaze fixed on the retreating figure of the informant as they disappeared into the murk. We'll need to be cautious, she said, her tone reflecting a blend of determination and wariness. The informant's warning suggests that there's more at play here than we know. We'll have to sift through this information and stay one step ahead of our enemies. As the night grew colder and the fog deepened, Mara and Cale turned their attention to the carved box. The weight of the informant's words hung heavily over them, their sense of urgency sharpened by the new lead and the ominous warning. Each step they took would need to be measured and precise, their resolve steeled against the hidden dangers that lay ahead. With that, the informant turned swiftly and vanished into the encroaching darkness, their figure melting seamlessly into the night. The fog seemed to swallow them whole, their exit as enigmatic as their arrival. Mara and Cale stood in the dim light, holding the small, intricately carved box, their minds racing with the implications of the informant's cryptic message. The urgency of their situation had intensified, the mysterious box now a focal point of their investigation. The air around them felt heavier with the weight of their task, each breath a visible puff in the chilly evening. As the shadows deepened and the first stars began to pierce the sky, Mara and Cale exchanged a look that conveyed both the gravity of their mission and their mutual resolve. The informant's sudden disappearance only added to the layers of intrigue that enveloped their pursuit, casting long, dark shadows over their efforts. With a shared sense of determination, they moved to a nearby alleyway, where the faint glow of a lantern offered just enough light to examine their prize. Mara's fingers traced the intricate carvings on the box's surface, noting the fine craftsmanship and the subtle hints of artistry that seemed almost out of place in the grim reality of their search. Her gaze flicked up to meet Cale's, her expression reflecting a mix of curiosity and caution. Cale, his eyes fixed on the box, carefully lifted the lid with deliberate precision. The hinges creaked softly, revealing a collection of neatly arranged papers and a few small, sealed envelopes. Each item was meticulously organized, suggesting a deliberate effort to keep the contents in order. As he examined the items, his royal composure remained unshaken, but his mind was already piecing together the potential significance of the information before them. The contents of the box were a blend of handwritten notes, coded messages, and diagrams that hinted at complex schemes. The carefully scripted notes seemed to detail various aspects of the conspiracy, each one potentially a clue leading to the masterminds behind the plot. Cale's fingers skimmed over the documents, his mind working to decode the intricate web of deception they were beginning to unravel. Mara's eyes narrowed as she examined the contents with a sharp, discerning gaze. Her usual impatience was tempered by a focused determination to extract every useful detail from the documents. "We need to analyze this information thoroughly," she said, her voice steady despite the mounting tension. "There could be critical clues hidden in these notes that will help us understand the full extent of the conspiracy." As they continued their examination, the night grew colder, and the city around them seemed to hold its breath. The urgency of their mission became palpable, each moment fraught with the potential for discovery or danger. The cost of obtaining the information remained unclear, but its potential value was undeniable. Mara and Cale were acutely aware that their next steps could be pivotal in uncovering the truth and thwarting the looming threat. The weight of their newfound knowledge pressed heavily upon them, each piece of information a thread in the complex tapestry of their investigation. As they carefully studied the documents and made notes of their findings, the gravity of their task became increasingly apparent. The path ahead was fraught with peril, but the resolve to see their mission through was unwavering. The mysterious informant's intervention had set them on a new course, and they were determined to follow it to its conclusion, no matter where it led. The night deepened, wrapping the warehouse in a cloak of darkness that seemed to stretch endlessly. Its darkened silhouette loomed ahead, stark and foreboding against the backdrop of the moonless sky. Mara and Cale approached with a palpable sense of urgency, the dim glow of their lanterns barely penetrating the encroaching gloom. The warehouse, with its weathered facade and broken windows, stood as a silent sentinel to the secrets it might hold. Equipped with new leads from the enigmatic informant, Mara and Cale knew that their next steps were crucial. The information they had received was a key piece of the puzzle, yet it also led them to more questions than answers. The sense of anticipation was heavy in the air, each shadow and creak of the warehouse adding to the tension. They were acutely aware that the path to uncovering the full scope of the conspiracy was fraught with uncertainty and potential danger. As they neared the warehouse, their preparation was meticulous. Mara's sharp gaze was fixed on the building, her mind racing through the implications of their new intel. The subtle clues and hints provided by the informant had opened up new avenues of investigation, but the answers they sought remained elusive. Cale, his expression set in determination, scanned the surroundings, his regal bearing hidden beneath practical attire, ready to confront whatever awaited them inside. With every step toward the warehouse, the weight of their mission grew heavier. The dangers that lay ahead were now more tangible, the sense of imminent confrontation blending with the fog of uncertainty. Mara and Cale understood that they were on the brink of a critical juncture, where every decision could impact the outcome of their investigation. The warehouse stood as both a literal and metaphorical threshold, marking the transition from uncertainty to revelation.